When you get 100 applicants on Indeed, how many of those 100 do you actually end up calling?
I would say probably 30% of them I can actually call. Book called Who by Jeff Smart. The whole point of that book is you're looking for an A player. You're looking for someone that you might spend a little more time and effort trying to hire, but the return that they're going to give you is going to be 3, 4, 5 times X. If you hire a B or C player, someone that's not top tier, you're probably going to lose money on that employee. They're probably going to cause you a lot of headaches, a lot of troubles, cause you issues. You might have to fire them, and guess what? You're back to square one trying to hire again.
How many people did you have to go through to essentially find your 14?
There's been a few times where, in past years I've kind of flip-flopped on someone and, oh yeah, they might not be that bad. No, trust your gut, trust your instinct, and odds are if you feel like they're not going to be the right candidate, don't go ahead with them.
It is a great day to be part of the Dirt Life. Today is an exclusive episode, never seen before, with the legendary Nathan Tobias, Operations Manager.
Yes, sir.
Here at Dawgs Lawn Care, a $2 million lawn care company, hoping to get to that $3 million soon. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Good to have you here. And what's really cool with this episode in particular is that Nathan is someone who's actually started as a technician, worked his way up to service manager, and now operations manager. And he's built a dialed-in team ready for the upcoming year. So, Nathan, tell me a little bit about your Yard Dogs journey. Give everyone a run to speed of where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, man. So I started back in COVID in 2020 there, and started off as a technician. Basically came on, there was a team of 3 or 4 of us, small little crew. We were doing power raking in the springtime, which was awfully a lot of fun, but got onto the fertilizer, weed control, that sort of stuff. Worked as a tech for the first year, and then moving into second year, came back as a tech again. It's basically just working as a summertime gig, help pay for school. After the 2 years there, wasn't too sure what I was planning to do. I graduated from university and was kind of just figuring out what my plan was in life and where I wanted to go. So decided I'd take a year off of school after I graduated, came back originally as a technician again. And with the way cards unfolded, I was offered a position as service manager, and from there went on, continued the season. Things were going great as a service manager, was learning lots, really growing as an individual, and then things continued to change even more, and operations manager had been stepped out, took on another job, and that's when you guys had offered me the position of operations manager in 2022 at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And then basically coming into 2023 was first year as full-time operations manager, and awesome year. We absolutely smashed it out of the park, killed it, and here we are, 2024.
Ready at it. Right before the season starts, we've had a tumultuous weather so far.
Been very back and forth with the hot and cold weather. It's been crazy.
Yeah. Well, hey, I know that to be an operations manager, there's a lot of skills and character traits needed to make it done successfully. But before you get into that, give everyone some context. How many trucks are you managing this year, and how many people, and what kind of different levels are they?
So we have 14 technicians. We have 2 AGRs, or customer service / technician hybrids, and then I have 2 service managers. So we actually have a total of 17 trucks now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big fleet. It's a lot of trucks going in and out of the door every day. Kind of 3 different things. I got the technicians, the hybrid of customer service and a tech, and then the service managers themselves.
Got it. And then those 14 techs, so 7 and 7, will each report to a service manager.
Correct.
Who will report to you.
Correct. Yeah. So the service manager manages those 7 technicians. They're actually split north and south of the city there, so they report to their service manager respectively. Out in the field, obviously it's pretty hard for me to manage 14 different guys going out all across the whole city. So the 2 service managers are kind of that in-between middleman between me and the technicians. And then, those 2 service managers report to me directly.
Why have a north and a south differentiation? Why not have just blanket territories?
The biggest reason is for time efficiency. Doesn't really make sense to have guys driving all across the city, going all over the place. If our one service manager is managing all the north, it's a lot easier for him to access all the guys in the north. They're probably going to be a lot closer together, as opposed to him having a guy in, the one quadrant over here and then another one down south, that sort of thing. So it's more so just for efficiency and being able to get there, when they need it.
Kind of fun comparison too. How's the North team doing versus the South team?
Well, unfortunately, like you said, the weather's been pretty brutal, so we haven't been up to a whole lot of production lately, but so far seems to be pretty equal. There's some all-stars on the North team and South team, and then, some guys that are working at it, looking to get better and better every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the most important parts of your role is building the team on an annual basis. Obviously, yes, we have some technicians that come each season back, but we have to do a lot of hiring every single season. Walk us through what you were super busy with March onwards, because I know you were doing hiring. What did that actually look like?
Yeah, hiring's a pretty tedious process that requires a lot of work and a lot of time, unfortunately. If you want to do it right, I guess that is, right? So for me, simply I just put an ad out on Indeed, really including what we're looking for in our technicians, the qualification skills, things to expect from the job, that sort of thing. Have the guys apply. From there, I would go through, screen the applicant basically based off of, I had some pre-screening questions. The biggest one is the driver's license and a driver's abstract. They are required to drive our trucks. They need to be insured on our trucks. So if they don't have a license, they can't drive, obviously. And if they have a poor driving record and a not very clean abstract, that's a no-go. So that's one way to screen them out. And then the other thing is obviously we're a seasonal job here. So we have students that are applying that are in school till the end of April, and we're looking to start hopefully middle of April. So they might not be available early at the start of the year. If I take on all students, that kind of throws off the actual production, because they also got to leave end of August, beginning of September to return, right? So pre-screening question for driver's abstract and license, as well as if they're in school or planning to attend school, are the first two things. Based on that, I can take a look at their resume, see kind of their past work experience, determine, have they done any sort of landscaping work or, physical labor work in that sort of sense, or, maybe they haven't, and they have a nice cover letter and, reached out to me on Indeed saying, hey, I think I'd be a great fit. From there, I can basically then decide, okay, yes, do I want to move forward, or no, do I not? If I choose to move forward, the next step would be a phone interview. So what I do is I would call them, and again, just screening the applicant, trying to get a better understanding of who they are and what they have to offer at Yard Dawgs here. So, strengths, weaknesses, things that they struggle with, things they wish they were better at, kind of giving me a minor painting picture of their last couple of jobs, that sort of thing, just to get a better understanding of who they are. And for me, I feel like the biggest thing is I'm able to get a pretty good grasp of who someone is on the phone for the most part, based on, the 10-15 minutes that I'm there screening them. And then from there, if I like them, I'll say, hey, let's try to set up an in-person interview. That way I can actually, put a face to their name and see them in person. And, sometimes I have people that surprise me. They're okay on the phone and I wasn't super impressed. They're decent, and, bring them in, give them a chance, and they kind of blow me out of the water in person. And sometimes they're great on the phone, and then in person I'm not too impressed, to be honest. So
it's hard to tell sometimes, eh?
Sometimes it's hard to tell, and sometimes someone could slip through the cracks and you could have let go of a player and you'd have no idea, right? But really the best thing that you can do is try to screen them, get the answers you're looking for, and then go from the phone interview into an in-person interview. That one's definitely a lot more in-depth, requires 30-40 minutes of your time, giving them the chance to ask questions about Yard Dawgs and what they can expect from the work, as well as just diving even deeper into their work history and really figuring out how are they with their colleagues, how are they with their former boss, how are they with time management and skills, and what did they take away, what were their weaknesses, things that they really enjoyed about the jobs, things that really frustrated them. That really gives you a better understanding of their work experience and what their different jobs were like for them and how they acted or reacted to it, right? So from there, if that's good, then the next step is to do a reference interview. So then I'll call 2 references at least, and typically former managers or bosses of them, and from there I can really get a good understanding. This person was great up until then, and then I talk to their former boss, and their boss goes, oh yeah, I wouldn't rehire this guy again. Poor communication, never showed up on time, was always whining, complaining, creating drama, or maybe it's the complete opposite, where, hey, if you don't hire this guy, I'm gonna call him and try to get him back, right?
Yeah,
so
have you actually cut people off after that reference check?
Yeah, there's been lots of people that are great on the phone, great in person. They seem to give you all the right answers, and it's deceiving, right? They put on such a good act, I guess you could say, when you're talking to them on the phone and seeing them in person. But then when they actually come and you go and talk to their employer, former employer, they give you complete different answers. There's been multiple guys for sure that I've just, okay, after that I'm probably not going through, because if their boss saw that, odds are it's probably pretty true. So
yeah, it's tricky because some people are just really good on the phone and really good in person for the interviews.
100%, man, 100%.
But they're not good workers.
100%, yeah. Which is tough because, if, they could give you the perfect answer to everything, but if their former employer doesn't see that or doesn't think that, I'm probably going to trust the person that was in charge of managing them,
Oh, yeah.
to give the kind of final decision from there.
Unless they're a vindictive person, like they have no reason to encourage you not to hire them, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
They have nothing to gain.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the process of how it goes. And then, if all goes well from steps, 1 through 4 of the phone interview and screening and in person and the reference and all that, then I'll likely give them a call back saying, hey, yes, you're hired, or hey, we've decided to move on with other applicants at the time.
How many people did you have to go through to essentially find your 14 studs?
Well, thankfully, I had 2 technicians returning from last year, which was great. So technically, I actually only had to hire 12.
Mm-hmm.
However, for those 12, it took me 770 applicants on Indeed.
Jeez.
Yeah, quite a few. Yeah,
That's a lot. That's crazy ratios. It's like 700 to get 12. It's like 1 in like 70-ish, 80-ish.
yeah.
Actually pan out from applications.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you get 100 applicants on Indeed, how many of those 100 do you actually end up calling?
It's hard to say. It kind of differs year to year, but on average, I would say probably 30% of them I can actually call. Honestly, it's unfortunate. A lot of the people that apply, out of those, call it 100 sample size, probably 60 or 70 of them don't have the credentials for driver's license or abstract, or they're in school and I've already hired my number of students that I can take on, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. You put out the screening question and there's a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I have a driver's license or a driver's abstract, but it's like they've only been driving for a year, so we need 3 years of driver experience. Or they say they have a clean abstract, but then the minute I get on the phone and ask them, hey, do you have any at-fault accidents or claims or tickets? And they go, oh yeah, I actually have 2 tickets. So then you call them, but then they're no good. So
yeah,
it really funnels down the qualified applicants that you can have just from those 2 things right from the get-go. Whereas, if you were hiring someone for sales, for example, to come work here at the shop, they don't need to drive a vehicle. Doesn't matter what their personal driver experience is like. They could have the worst driver history ever. That's their insurance that they got to deal with, not ours as a company, right? So that definitely narrows it down big time.
Mm-hmm. Now, for someone watching this right now, they need to hire people every year. Maybe they're making their first hire. What are some key takeaways that you'd give them in all the experience that you've done hiring here that you would definitely give them as some hot advice?
The biggest one I would say is trust your gut. There's been a few times where, in past years I've kind of flip-flopped on someone and, oh yeah, they might not be that bad. No, trust your gut, trust your instinct, and odds are if you feel like they're not going to be the right candidate, don't go ahead with them. So trust your gut, trust your instinct. The other thing was there's a book called Who by Jeff Smart. That book is more designed for hiring kind of a one-time position, CFO, CEO, like really high one-up spots in a company. But at the end of the day, the whole point of that book is you're looking for an A player. You're looking for someone that, you might spend a little more time and effort trying to hire, but the return that they're going to give you is going to be 3, 4, 5 times X the time it took you to hire them. Because if you hire a B or a C player, someone that's not, top tier, you're probably going to lose money on that employee. They're probably going to cause you a lot of headaches, a lot of troubles, cause you issues. You might have to fire them. And then guess what? You're back to square one trying to hire again. So trust your gut and look for those A players. Read that book, Who by Jeff Smart. That's an incredible book with lots of good insights, and it really gives you a good kind of framework as to how you should be going about your interviews. Even though in there it's designed for CEO, CFOs, you can use that same framework for a technician. You might not have to use all of it as in depth as it is, but it's a great foundational framework for really trying to screen out the A players.
Perfect. And if you're like what you're seeing so far, please make sure you like and subscribe the channel. We got awesome lawn care content. We're now in our season, so you're going to see some very live updates on how things are going in the field, in the office, etc. But you're going to miss it if you're not subscribed, so make sure you smash that subscribe button. And now back to the interview. Nathan, when you came here, the shop was, let's be blunt, it was a disaster. Like the things in the warehouse, we did that warehouse tour a couple of videos ago. Put the link for that down in the description. Tell me a little bit about how do you turn a place from chaos into order? What are some of the tools and tricks that you do to be OCD about stuff that actually matters?
Yeah, so the reality is we're in a confined space here with lots of trucks and lots of employees going in and out of the shop every single day. For us to operate in a smoothly efficient manner, things need to be organized. Without this organization in the shop, you'd have no idea where anything is. Guys are asking you, where do I go find this? Where do I go get that? Or I put this there last time and now it's not there. So organization is huge. When I first came into the shop, there was no organization. As you guys probably saw in former footage of the shop, and it was in shambles. It was not good.
Such a nice way to put it.
Yeah, you really had no idea where anything was, and it changed spots every single time you went and picked up or looked for it, right? So for me, the first step to get this place dialed in and as organized as it was to simply go through everything that was in here. I ripped apart the entire shop, picked through every single thing that was in here. Whether it's worth our space to keep it and it would be valuable to us and something we'd use again, yes or no. If not, it's getting given away, donated, or straight to the trash. The reality is you can collect a lot of garbage pretty quick. A lot of stuff you don't need pretty quick, right? So really being meticulous in what you're actually going to use and having it easily accessible is huge, right? So from there, once I'd sorted through and picked out what we actually wanted and what we needed, I was able to then organize and create a space and a home for it. So storage racks, those are huge. We have 2 massive orange storage shelves that hold all of our product. It's not just sitting on the floor.
Pretty much like Costco storage racks, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. Huge industrial size storage racks, which are huge for all of our product. Okay, all the fertilizer goes here. All the super juice, compost, liquid aeration, it all has a place, it all has a home. That way when guys go to look for stuff, it's in the same spot every time, right? The bins for organizing, putting labels on stuff. You put stuff into a bin, you need to know what's in that bin. So instead of playing the guessing game, opening up all these bins, you can just see, okay, this has all of our PP. Okay, I can go and look in there and I know I'm going to find rubber gloves there for the technicians to spray in, right? So having stuff in a place where it makes sense is huge, and then labeling it. Before, a lot of stuff was just chucked on the shelves, stacked up, mountains, that sort of stuff, and it was a disaster. You had no idea. You'd be pulling snow chains out of the way to try to find a pair of rubber gloves. So really just creating a home for everything and then having that home labeled and organized and being in the same spot every time is huge. The other thing for us that was big is the use of wall space. A lot of stuff was living on the floor and taking up floor space to, park trucks and have space for people to walk through and that sort of stuff. So wall hooks, wall organization, getting stuff off the floor and onto the walls, that's a great use of space, especially for us when we are as squishy and tight as we are in this place, right? So taking advantage of every square inch of the shop is huge. But that was the biggest thing, getting stuff off the floor and then giving everything a home that's organized and that's going to be in the same place. And then holding guys accountable is huge as well. My service managers are using all these tools and equipment every day. If they leave the stuff out, I'm going to be on them. Hey, why is the dustpan sitting on the floor here? It has a hook where it should be. The other guy's going to go look for it. If it's not there, we're not going to have a clue where it is, right? So making sure when you're done with something, it goes right back to where it came from is huge. That way, the next guy that goes looks for it, he knows exactly where it's going to be.
Yeah. We got a bit of a spectrum here, I've noticed. Like the people that we hire at Yard Dogs, I've got the OCD on the far right, and then I have the ADHD on the far left. No, not left-right politics. It's nothing to do with it. I could have flipped them over. Anyways, left is ADHD, right is OCD. Where would you say you are on the spectrum? Plus 10 is OCD and negative 10 is ADHD.
Plus 10 for sure.
You're plus 10 for sure there too?
For sure, yeah.
So it's interesting. I'd probably give myself a minus 3. Like I'm not everywhere all the time, but I'm definitely not super organized. I'm kind of in the middle. It's like I can focus on things. But anyways, I've noticed that when people are really good at sales in particular, they're usually in the negatives. Like they're closer to the ADHD side. But when you're a solid manager like you are definitely high up in the OCD standpoint. My biggest challenge is that I just moved, I'm putting things away in the house right now. And I inevitably come up to a box and I'm opening it. I'm like, okay, I should probably throw the stuff out, but I can foresee myself needing it in this example. Like, theoretically, if I was in this situation, I'm probably going to need this thing. Therefore, I should probably keep it for that time so I don't have to go pay for it. How do you get over that? Because like I'm not a hoarder, but I end up keeping things that I probably will use in a year or two. But like, how do you balance needing stuff in the future versus like, listen, in the present I don't need this. It's taking up space. Out.
Yeah, so it's a tough line. There are stuff that we do have around here that we don't use very frequently. We have saws. How often are we using saws? Not that often. However, I do know that we are going to use it in the future. So it is really kind of a fine line of, what's actually worth your time in keeping, and do you have the space for it? If you have the storage space for it and it's, you don't have stuff that you do need taking up that space and you have the space, I'd say, yeah, you can keep it, but if it's something you're never going to use and you want to keep it for the sake of keeping because you feel bad getting rid of it, donate it, give it away. I'm sure there's someone else that is looking to use it or could use it. And, for us, the biggest thing too is the cost and time of that space. Is it really worth it? Are you losing value by having that there when you could have something that's way more effective and useful in that space? For example, you can look at us in our aerators. We used to have 7-8 aerators. We use them. We know we're going to use them in the future, but how often are we going to use them? And is it worth it for that cost of that $5,000 Ryan aerator to be sitting on the floor taking up space? When I could go rent it for $500 for the 2 weeks that we're going to use it. You know? So it's kind of that cost analysis of is it worth your time and space, and the headache and the trouble of it being in your way and ruining your operating space for stuff that you do use on a daily basis. Can you use it? Can you store it somewhere? For us, we don't have anywhere to store the aerators. We are maxed out to full capacity. It's not worth it for us to have $5,000 machines sitting collecting dust for 50 out of the 52 weeks of the year.
Exactly.
Right? So for us, renting it, great. Pick it up, go use it, return it. That way it's out of the way.
There's something to say too about like the mental clutter. Like if you always see those aerators in the corner taking up space, like, and you do that and then there's 15 other things going on, it bears on you mentally, like always having this stuff cluttered there too. So I think freeing things up is huge, but also we got to create a standard here. If we have oil pans in the corner that haven't been emptied and they're dirty, yes, that might not seem like a big deal, but the technicians pick up on that kind of stuff. And without ever having that conversation, they're going to start to think it's okay to be quote unquote sloppy at a job site, where that's the opposite of what we need to display here. So it's weird. The second you clean up things in the shop and create a standard for the shop, it's almost like standards can't help but follow in all the other departments.
Oh, exactly, 100%. You let one thing slide, how many more things are going to slide after that? And then it just becomes a compounding effect of, oh, I did this before, we can keep doing it again. It's like, no, the shop floors are shining, the shop floor stays shining. Well, if the shops are shining, the trucks should be shining. Oh, the trucks are shining, I should be looking 10 out of 10, It becomes, like you said, a standard that becomes very easy to replicate and follow, from, everything in the warehouse to everything that goes out to coming back. We have truck washing standards. You see all the trucks that drive around, they're all sloppy and gross and unprofessional. Well, here, if the outside of the truck's clean, the inside of the truck should be clean, right? So that standard is way easier to follow if there's no room for error there, right? So setting that standard and holding people accountable is huge, right? So if the techs aren't washing their trucks and keeping their trucks clean, well, there's going to be repercussions for that, right? So if that standard's followed, well, it's likely going to continue for the rest of the work and the quality work that they do, right?
At what point does it become kind of like a hindrance, though, to be like overly critical or overly OCD about things, to the point where like people will say like, oh, I'm slow because I'm a perfectionist and it's done properly, but sometimes I find people can use that as an excuse to like just not get shit done at the end of the day. At what point does that actually become a hindrance, and how do you draw that line?
Yeah, it's tricky, like you could look at a tech and worrying about every single bead of fertilizer getting cleaned off of the sidewalk that they spread it on to by accident. The reality is it in as good or better shape by blowing it off with a Milwaukee blower? Is that one bead of fertilizer that was left behind going to make a difference, make or break it? No, probably not, right? So you kind of have to pick and choose your battles of, is it worth your time to go that extra mile to clean that up? You could use the trucks as the same thing. Oh, there's a speck of dust on the dash. Is that going to change the quality of work if it's 90% better than what it was before? It's kind of that fine line of having to pick and choose your battles. Yeah, there is no 100% right set answer as to, okay, this is getting out of hand. But when you start taking that into way too much of, I guess you could say, like looking at it I don't know what the word is for, but going above and beyond where it's okay, in that time you could have just done it 90% as good and moved on to another job. When it's killing your efficiency, I guess, that's when, instead of you could do a wash of the truck in 10 minutes, that's 90% as good as a 5-hour detail to make it that 100% good. Is that really worth your time and benefit when to the general public eye or to yourself, it's, it's probably going to get dirty again. You're probably going to spread more fertilizer there again. It just has to be within that standard kind of. When it gets to the point of pushing it so far and so long that you're killing your efficiency, it's not worth it.
Oh, for sure. Because like time and like quality is not always linear. Like doing a 90% good job, let's just say that takes 30 minutes to do the 90% job. But going from the 90 to 95% might take another 30 minutes. And then that 95 to 100 might take an extra hour on top of that. So you just got to know like where's the sweet spot? Where's the sweet spot of getting the job done to a very high standard for the best value of time?
Exactly, because you look at that wasted time, that extra 30 minutes to get to the 95th percentile. Think of how many other tasks you could have done that are sitting at 10% that you could have got to the 90th percentile, right? So using that time efficiently to make sure you're hitting all your tasks and getting them done to a high standard instead of getting one absolutely perfect.
Yeah. It's kind of like studying, honestly. You mentioned percentile. I'm like, okay, you have 5 courses at university. You need to get, let's say, 80% is your standard. At what point do I need to drop studying for accounting because I need to start to study finance? And I know I need at least 80%. Maybe let's not go for the A+ on the accounting. Let's just go for B+ across.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we can't all be perfect.
Yeah.
We just got to do the best that we can do, right?
Yeah.
So that's all you can ask for.
Exactly. And to kind of finish things off here, our current shop is about 3,500 square feet of warehouse, 1,000 square feet of office with 1,000 square foot mezzanine. And then the yard is roughly 2,000 square feet. In a perfect world, if I said, Nathan, here's the map of Calgary, you can pick your own office, warehouse space, what would you say what would make a perfect operating branch?
Honestly, here we're pretty lucky. We're in a pretty good location. We have pretty good space. We're close to the highways, which allows us to, get on and out on the road pretty quick.
Yeah.
I really don't want to move.
Quite
frankly, I don't want to move. And the reality is we're getting by and making things work with the space that we have. In a perfect world, our shop space would probably be bigger. We'd be able to store all of our trucks inside. Parking the trucks in the yard is great. We have the space in the yard. It's great. It allows us to, house more trucks here than just what's confined in the shop. But in a perfect world, it would be a space where we'd actually have the space to park all of our trucks inside, because trucks, they can't sit outside in the winter, the tanks. They got to get, mixed with antifreeze or brought inside, and risk of theft. We've had catalytic converters cut off of our trucks. We have gate and barbed wire fence and stuff, but if someone wants some, they're going to go get it. So, the yard space is great and all, but in a perfect world, we'd be able to park all our trucks inside all the time. The other thing that would make it super awesome is if we had a drive-through bay where you can access it from the front and the back.
Okay, yeah.
Basically, because we got these big trucks with spreaders on the back, it's hard to see, it's tight, it's squishy. We were talking about like 6 inches on either side of the truck sometimes when they're parking it in there. If you had a drive-through bay where you don't have to do any reversing, that would just make things so much simpler. Truck comes in, goes out the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
a drive-through.
So,
quick and efficient.
Yeah. But overall, space here is pretty good. We're making do with what we can, but the yard, it would be nice to park the trucks inside for sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, hey, we'll do another follow-up on operations later this season, but thanks so much for joining me today on The Dirt Life. And if you liked what you saw today, do not forget to smash the subscribe button. We got awesome more Yard Dog stuff coming your way on The Dirt Life. Yard Dogs, we're a lawn care company trying to hit $3 million within about 2 years. So I'd say probably you're going to land at that 2.75 for this season, but we have lots of more stuff coming your way for not only the operation side of things, but we got marketing, sales, and every single department, you name it, we're going to cover it here. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and we cannot wait to see you in the next video.